That's pretty. That's pretty.
When Emmanuel Jones admires a brand new Ford truck, his mouth starts to water.
That's cool.
Not because he's a pickup buff, it's because they're his bread and butter.
Our fortunes live and die with the F-150.
Jones owns the Legacy Ford dealership in McDonough, Georgia, one of the largest black-owned businesses in Metro Atlanta.
Justin is my service manager. Justin started here when he was 18 years old. When I took over 26 years ago, this building looked just like this.
Next door, Jones also operates a Hyundai dealership.
How long have you been here?
16.
About 100 people work for him, including his daughter, Imani,
And I could really use a new car.
who he's made the face of the company.
Hey Dad, how about that new car?
Imani, I'm grilling.
Well, how about these great deals?
The last 2 days, we actually sold 2 Raptors.
His son, Emmanuel Jr., works for him too.
What is it like working with your dad?
The first few years was probably the most challenging.
Including making it to work on time.
But I didn't wake up until about 10 to get to work when I was supposed to be at work at 7, and he fired me on the spot.
Oh.
I was fired for about a couple weeks there.
How'd you get your job back?
I went to work.
Hey Dad, I just graduated top of my
His
class.
daughter is now a junior at Vanderbilt, and his youngest son is a naval officer in divinity school at Harvard University.
I just want to encourage my kids to be valued members of this great country.
While his kids benefited from their father's guidance, Jones did not grow up with the same support. He became an orphan at age 11 after his mother and father both died from illness. This is the home he grew up in a community off Bankhead Highway. It's an area of Atlanta known for its eyesores, economic disparity, and black inequality, often echoed in the rap music industry.
Bankhead, been pulling the cape up.
And that area over there looks the same today as it did 30 years ago. Matter of fact, it looks worse.
Really?
Yes.
Is that frustrating?
Oh, it's extremely frustrating because there's so many good people that live over there and they need essential services.
Bankhead Highway's problems mirrors the findings in a new report by the Economic Policy Institute, which looked at the state of African Americans since 1968. The biggest improvement, educational attainment. In 1968, just over half of African Americans had a high school diploma. Today, it's more than 92%. But that's where the good news ends. College graduation rate still lags behind whites, which grew twice as fast than blacks.
So I see those opportunities there, but it can't end there. We got to figure out how to integrate people of color fully into the fabric of this great country, and that hasn't happened yet.
Also unchanged, black home ownership. Over the past 50 years, it has stayed at about 41%. Black unemployment got worse. In 1968, unemployment was at 6.7%. Last year, it climbed to 7.5%. And the typical black worker still only makes 82 cents on every dollar earned compared to the typical white worker.
There are a lot of factors that play into this.
Dr. Maurice Hobson is a history professor at Georgia State University and author of a new book called The Legend of the Black Mecca: Politics, Class, and the Making of Modern Atlanta.
A black person would need to live 230 years to catch up with the generational wealth of a white person. And we're not talking about wealthy people. We're talking about
Middle class.
Or what we consider to be normal. And
Hobson says that income disparity will eventually drive black out of historical African-American Atlanta neighborhoods, like Auburn Avenue.
So you think in a few years...
I think this thing is going to flip. What's now happening is that because of the conversation around generational wealth, black people cannot afford to live in this city. The urban renewal and gentrification have skyrocketed. So this was black hallowed ground. And that is being erased. There is no respect for preservation in this city.
The most troubling disparity in the report includes incarceration rates of African Americans. From 1968 to 2016, the share of blacks behind bars tripled.
What goes through your mind when you hear that number?
Alarm. All kind of bells and whistles set off in my head.
Jones is working to change that, not as a dealership owner, but as a state senator in the Georgia legislature. Since taking office in 2004, he's authored and helped pass laws aimed at reducing the disparity of student discipline in schools, reducing high school dropout rates, and cutting the pipeline to prison cycle of young African Americans.
It starts when those kids are young. It starts in our school systems. It starts with making sure that kids don't have disparate treatment just because of their color.
What do you say to someone that says, just as long as you work really hard, pull up your bootstraps, you have the same opportunities as everyone else?
And I've heard that phrase a lot, but a lot of kids that I grew up with, we didn't have boots. We didn't have any straps to pull up. So it's really, really hard to pull yourself up by anything when you're starting down at the very, very lowest rungs of the socioeconomic ladder. White privilege is real, and it's always been real. If anyone has ever walked in the shoes of an African American male for the 58 years that I have, they would understand that.
But the truth of the matter is, King made the ultimate sacrifice, and we're still fighting the same battles. I asked the question, was this in vain?
How do you react when someone says you've made it?
I don't ever think I've made it. My life started on Bankhead Highway and Baker Road, where my family started. My life will end on Bankhead Highway and Baker Road. And whatever that journey is in between for me is whatever I can give back, not just to the community, but to all those constituents I serve, and to my 3 kids that I birthed, and hopefully I will leave something along the way for them.